Muskin, this is Rashid. From today onward, he will live in our house and help you with all the chores. When I introduced 15-year-old Rashid to my wife, she stared at him in astonishment. She didn't say anything in front of him, but grabbed my hand and led me into the room. I asked for a servant, not a child, she cried. What am I supposed to do with him? Bring me a grown man who, besides running all the household errands, can also manage a trip or two to the market in my absence. I'm always in trouble when you're away. How many times have I begged you for a proper help? After all that effort, now you bring home this scrawny boy of only 15. What good is he for housework? My wife Samira's mood soured completely. I replied, just give him a chance for a few days. He's very energetic. He used to work at my friend's shop. When they no longer needed him there, he became jobless, so I brought him here to help you. You've been after me for ages to arrange a servant, and now that I've done so, you complain. You know I have to catch the evening train, and in my haste, I arranged Rashid. Put up with him for 3 or 4 months. When I return, I'll find you another helper. Samira glared at me but said, fine. Just be sure to bring back a proper, capable young man who can handle the work correctly. I readily agreed, and Samira began packing my things. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Rashid was standing there. Samira eyed him questioningly. He said, Ma'am, please tell me what to do. I'm just standing here idle. I smiled at Samira, and she looked him over from head to toe before asking, Do you even know how to do housework? Rashid immediately replied, Yes, madam. I can clean, wash dishes, and I even know how to cook. I've been living alone in the city for a long time, he added. My family's in the village, so I learned all these chores. Hearing that, Samira felt a little reassured. She said, All right, go start with the cleaning. After the master leaves, I'll see all your masterpieces. Let me taste your cooking one day to know how good you are. Samira was by no means convinced by Rashid, but she had only kept him because I insisted. After I left, she went with me to the railway station. Tears welled in her eyes. Being without me was very hard for her. I comforted her. It's only for a few months. When I return, don't ever send Rashid away, or you'll be in trouble with the household chores. I stressed this firmly because she had a habit of dismissing any servant she didn't find satisfactory. She simply nodded silently, and I bade her farewell and set off on my journey. I had to go to another city for 3 months. My business was on the verge of a new breakthrough. I was negotiating a big deal with a client, and this trip was essential. I wanted to become so successful in life that my wife would never have to turn to her father for anything. The thought of her relying on her father for even our smallest needs was unbearable to me. Had she appealed to her father, he would have dispatched an entire battalion of servants to our house. Yet I wanted to handle this myself, so I entrusted Rashid to Samira's care. I knew my wife was tormented by loneliness. She came from a very wealthy family, and although I was comfortable, I could not match her family's riches. 2 months earlier, our long-serving maid had resigned, leaving Samira to shoulder every household task. She became irritable and resentful. Whenever I tried to hire a replacement, she found fault. She demanded a strong young man who could dash through chores and run market errands. Female servants dawdle, she would say. They meddle with our possessions. No matter whom I engaged, a middle-aged woman included, Samira suspected her of pilfering trinkets and refused to keep her. My only recourse was to select Rashid, though I had plenty of young men to choose from. The thought of leaving my beautiful young wife alone with a handsome male servant filled me with envy and insecurity. I harbored a constant fear that Samira, so young and lovely, deserved someone far more worthy than me. My mind replayed the idea that she deserved a stronger, more handsome husband, and that she might leave me for someone else if he proved more attentive. This insecurity compelled me to choose a 15-year-old boy instead. Rashid's youth and innocence could never supplant me in my wife's affections. Moreover, he was remarkably skilled at every household task. Samira could easily manage with his help. Relieved by this compromise, I departed on my business trip, convinced that at least our domestic front would not collapse in my absence. Once I arrived in the other city, I threw myself into work. My enterprise flourished rapidly, and I firmly believed that this success was Samira's blessing ever since she entered my life. Friends who knew my humble beginnings marveled that I had won the hand of such a beautiful and affluent woman. To protect her from unwelcome attention, I had distanced us both from old acquaintances, meeting them only discreetly outside the house. Now, with our new outlet poised for expansion, I could not afford distractions. Each evening, I phoned Samira. She reported that Rashid exceeded her expectations. He tackled cleaning, cooking, and errands with surprising energy. Hearing her praise brought me immense relief. She no longer yearned for another servant. Meanwhile, I finalized my deal and inaugurated the new branch, dedicating every waking hour to its success. Yet, despite my confidence in Rashid's abilities, I could not shake the worry that this delicate arrangement might unravel in my absence. I feared that if my return were delayed, Samira's initial relief could give way to frustration. I recalled how furious she had been when previous helpers proved unreliable, forcing her to contend with every chore alone. My drive to build a thriving business was motivated by more than ambition. It was a solemn promise to my wife that she would never again have to depend on her father or sacrifice her comfort for household needs. Each late-night breakthrough in my work was tinged with thoughts of home. I pictured Rashid dutifully assisting Samira, lightening her burden, and providing her with company until I returned. The irony was not lost on me. A 15-year-old chosen out of necessity had become the guardian of our domestic peace. I clung to the vision of Samira, smiling, unencumbered by chores, welcoming me back through the front door. That promise sustained me, driving me onward until the day I could reunite with her, confident that I had preserved her well-being and honored my commitment. The first month passed in a whirlwind of activity, but by the second month, the workload had eased and things began to settle down. I started calling Samira every night, but for some reason, she simply wouldn't talk properly. It was as if she was exhausted. Sometimes she would even fall asleep mid-conversation. I would ask in surprise, "Samira, why are you so sleepy? You used to stay up all night, but now as soon as we start talking, you nod off, and even answering me takes a huge effort." She told me, "My routine has changed. I spend the entire day on household chores, and at night I fall asleep early." Her answer astonished me. She'd never been accustomed to housework. When we had a maid, she did nothing, and when there was none, she would only cry and tackle one or two tasks, leaving the rest for me after I got home from the office. That was why I'd hurriedly found Rashid, so the burden wouldn't fall on her alone. What new chores could she have taken on to feel this exhausted? I said, "That's exactly why I hired Rashid, to do the housework, and you yourself said he does it well. So why are you still doing any of it?" She laughed and replied, "Without you here, my heart wouldn't settle. I have to keep busy, so I stick with Rashid. In fact, we've become very good friends." Her words silenced me. The next afternoon, I called again, but Samira didn't pick up. I rang repeatedly, but she was nowhere to be found. A strange anxiety gripped me. The night watchman at our gate was the only person around. I called him at once and asked about Samira. He said, "Madame went out somewhere with Rashid." I was stunned. How could she have gone out without telling me? Whenever she left the house, she would always message me first. I said nothing and hung up. That evening, Samira finally called. I asked sharply, Where were you? I called you so many times and you never answered." She fell silent as if no answer would come. After a moment, I pressed again. "Samira, where did you go? Did you visit your father?" She burst out, "Yes, I went to see my father. I remembered and went." My heart lurched. If she'd gone to her father's house, did she take Rashid with her? And how could she have gone to her parents without telling me? I'd never liked her visiting her family anyway. So I asked pointedly, "Until you returned, Rashid did all the work?" She immediately smiled and said, "Yes, Rashid did everything, so I wasn't worried. Papa is fine. Everything's fine here. He even asked about your well-being and said he's glad he accepted our marriage. Now everything is sorted. Don't worry about me. Everything's good here. I'm tired now and want to sleep." With that, she hung up. A fire burned in my chest. Samira had lied to me, and I had caught her. Yet I couldn't understand why she'd gone out with Rashid and kept it secret. My mind flashed with jealousy. Was she seeing someone else? But I brushed the thought aside. Samira loved me deeply. She could never have eyes for anyone else. Samira and I had attended the same college, and we were deeply in love. She had defied her father to marry me, Her father never wanted me as his son-in-law because our social standing didn't match. I came from a very poor family, though I was hardworking, and I believed I would one day prove myself worthy of Samira. But my father-in-law refused to accept that. He always saw me as poor and suspected I had married Samira for her wealth. That was why I disliked her visiting her family's home. Although her father eventually accepted our marriage and now treated both of us kindly, I never forgot those early days of humiliation. For that reason, I seldom went to their house and discouraged Samira from going often. A thought began to torment me. If Samira truly had gone to her father's home with Rashid, and if her behavior had changed, surely her father was behind it. He had never wanted our marriage, and now I feared his acceptance was a sham. In reality, he wanted to separate us. Sooner or later, he would introduce to her a man better than me, and Samira would leave me. The very idea made me even more restless. The next day, I called Samira. After a long delay, she answered with a curt, "Yes?" and then hung up on me. It felt as if she was running away from me, refusing even to speak. A knot formed in my chest. On my next call, I sternly insisted she not visit her father's house again until I returned. She fell silent at my words, offered no reply, and ended the call. The following day, I rang the night watchman to pry into our household affairs. He told me, "Sir, we stand outside. Inside, Madam and Rashid are always together. Rashid has become very special to her. She keeps him by her side all the time. Every day they go out for walks together and spend evenings in the garden. At night, Rashid isn't even in his quarters anymore. Perhaps he started sleeping in the bungalow." Hearing that, I felt the ground drop beneath me. How could Rashid be sleeping in the bungalow instead of his own quarters? The very next day, in casual conversation, I asked Samira about it. She said, "You know I'm afraid to be alone, so I had Rashid's clean the spare room. Now, instead of sleeping in his quarters, he rests in the room next door to mine. So I can sleep too." She had shared the whole story to reassure me, but my heart remained uneasy. 15 as he was still a man. How could I trust him alone with my wife? I began to pity myself. After struggling through a third month, one night, without informing Samira, I returned home. What I saw stole my breath. My beloved wife, for whom I had labored day and night and sacrificed everything in another city, was utterly enthralled in the arms of a 15-year-old servant. Seeing what Rashid was doing inflamed my blood with rage. I rushed forward, grabbed his collar, and began to beat him. I beat him so viciously that blood spurted from his mouth. He collapsed to the floor, utterly spent, while my wife kept rushing forward to pull him away from me. Finally, Samira shoved me back and cried, "You've lost your mind, Khalid. Why are you hitting him?" I stared at her with hatred. "I want to end your life myself, strangle you with my own hands, but I won't even touch your unclean self. Get out of my house right now." "I thought you loved me. That's why you married me. But now I see your heart is full and you're tired of me. That's why you demanded a young servant, to let the fire inside you die out." I spat. "I understand perfectly. You cannot live with me any longer. I'm busy building my business, and so you began these filthy games behind my back. I want nothing more to do with you. Have the relationship you choose, but not within the walls of my home." Turning away, I told Samira to leave, and she stood there speechless. She rushed forward, gripped my arm, and begged, "What are you saying, Khalid? Why are you throwing me out? I love you." "You must have some misunderstanding. Please, let me explain. Just listen to me." But I stopped her with a violent shove. She fell hard to the floor, bursting into tears. She must have been hurt, but I paid her no mind. I turned to Rashid and hissed, "You ungrateful wretch. I gave you shelter in my home, a job, a salary far above your station, and in return you betrayed me with my own wife. Today you leave this house, and I never want to see your face again. Take your madame with you. Both of you. Get out." With that, I stormed out of the bungalow. I had no idea what to do, where to go, or how to calm myself. I climbed into my car and drove off to my friend's place, spending the night chain-smoking and railing about my wife's betrayal. In my rage, I even recounted the whole story to my friends. They all told me, "Why didn't you divorce her at once? A woman like that, leave her immediately." Listening to them, I began to think perhaps they were right. I should file for divorce. I spent the entire night wrestling with that thought. By morning, my fury had eased a little, and I returned to the bungalow, only to find that neither Samira nor Rashid was there. My anger shot through the roof. Of course, they were in league together and had fled the house. I began smashing everything in my room: furniture, glass, pictures. Hours passed in that blind rage. Then my phone rang. It was my father-in-law. Seeing his number rekindled the fire inside me. I answered in a voice like ice. Keep your daughter with you. Marry her to whichever rich boy you choose. I have no need for a woman of her depravity. He replied, I never wanted to leave my daughter with a man like you, one who abused her so terribly. She's pregnant and you shoved her so hard she was injured. She's in the hospital now. I only called to tell you this. Don't ever think of coming back to her again. Hearing my father-in-law's words sent shivers down my spine. I immediately shouted, What are you saying? Samira is pregnant? Am I going to be a father? My emotions shifted in an instant, but before I could react further, he hung up the phone. I jumped up and ran straight to the hospital. I knew which doctor Samira was seeing, so I went there without stopping. As soon as he saw me, my father-in-law warned me harshly, Turn back right now or I'll beat you so badly you won't be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Haven't I told you that you have nothing more to do with my daughter? I ignored him and pushed my way into Samira's room. She was lying on the bed with her eyes closed. The moment I called her name, she opened her eyes, saw me, and burst into tears. Standing off to one side was my 15-year-old servant, Rashid, but I paid him no mind. Between sobs, Samira explained, A few days after you left, I discovered I was pregnant. I wanted to surprise you, so I didn't tell you, but because of the pregnancy, I've been feeling unwell. My stomach has been up and down all day. That's why I asked Rashid to stay in the bungalow with me to help out. Rashid was sensible and knew how unwell I was, so he took care of me. On the night you suddenly returned, I had actually been vomiting and fainted in the bathroom. Rashid carried me back to the bed, and you walked in on that scene. You found me in his arms. Before I could explain anything, you misunderstood me, accused me, and stormed out. After you left, I was in terrible pain. Your shove had injured my abdomen. Rashid brought me to the hospital in time, and because of that timely care, our baby is healthy today. It's all thanks to him. If he hadn't been there, I might have died in pain losing our child. She began to cry again, and in that moment, I realized how terribly I'd wronged her with my suspicion. Samira had actually come to tell me she was going to be a mother. She wanted to surprise me. And I had twisted every fact into betrayal. When the truth finally came out, I folded my hands and begged Samira's forgiveness. She was so good-hearted that she forgave me. Although her father still didn't want her to start life with me again, I apologized to him as well and brought Samira back home. From then on, Rashid took extraordinary care of Samira. Time flew by, and a few months later she gave birth to our beautiful daughter, an absolute mirror image of me. Seeing our baby girl made me realize how innocent and fragile daughters are and how ruthlessly people can break their hearts. That day, I asked Samira's forgiveness once more, and she held me close. Our life today is a happy one. Our daughter calls Rashid uncle and loves him dearly, and we have accepted him as part of our family. Sometimes I think with gratitude that I didn't divorce my wife in my anger. Otherwise, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life.